Everybody, I'm David Yakir,
And I'm Susan Keller Horn.
and you're listening and hopefully watching Yak About Film. Today, we have a great guest, Patrick Ireland, whose film Ill Fares the Land will be playing at the festival, Vero Beach Festival, this year.
Yes, it'll be in the dramatic shorts that are called Think. So I have two sets of dramatic shorts, and it is in the section called Think.
But before we get Patrick, you know, Susan, everybody keeps asking us to explain the award situation.
Yes.
Right? So we have two sets of awards. There are the jury awards and the audience awards. And the difference in the jury awards are
The jury awards are we have professionals, we have industry professionals that watch a number of films that we've nominated for them to consider, and they will select the winner of the jury awards. And those are by their peers. And we have cash awards with those. We give those awards out on Thursday,
hmm,
Thursday evening at the opening party at
right.
Dyer Subaru, which will be at 7:30 Thursday, April 11th, and we will be giving out the awards there as well as celebrating all our filmmakers at our filmmaker welcome party.
Yeah, I want to go back to the audience awards because it's really interesting. And we've seen this several times. The jury awards are, as you said, industry professionals who are looking at very detailed aspects of the film. How good is the directing? How good is the cinematography? How good is the storyline? That type of thing.
Yes.
The audience comes at it from a very different way. They come from how enjoyable was there a lesson here? Did I learn something? Right. So
Did it make me feel something?
that's right. And it's always interesting, when we sort of add up the audience awards at the end and we look at them compared to the jury awards, they're not often not the same.
They usually aren't.
Yeah.
Every once in a while we have they kind of agree, but most of the time they are totally
Mm.
different films.
And by the way, if you want to see some of the films that we'll be showing, or not see some of the films, but see sort of trailers of some of the films that we'll be presenting this year at the film festival, we now have it up online at vbfilmfest.org. That's Vero Beach, vbfilmfest.org. And you can see the schedule of the films, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday schedule, what venues. You can also take a look at the films themselves and see the information about the film,
Right.
as well as some of them, or most of them, will have trailers,
A
I
lot of
believe.
them have trailers. Not everyone does. I mean, I have a 2-minute film. They're not making a trailer, so, but there are trailers for a number of the films,
Right.
and it's just a great way to see what you might be interested in watching because we have 78 films. There is really almost no way that you can watch 78 films at our festival.
Although we managed to watch 450 films.
Yes, we did.
So
I
to
watched
pick
over
out the
two.
78.
Now, when we say 450 films, they're not all feature lengths. Some of them are short. So, in watching all the films, I watched close to 250 hours of films in selecting our films for this year.
That's right. And after we have our conversation with Patrick, we're going to try to convince you to buy passes to those films.
Yes.
But let's bring on Patrick right now and talk about his film, Ill Fares the Land.
Hey, Patrick, welcome. So, what time is it where you
Hey
are?
guys, no, it's 7:30 in the evening, so I'm in London at the moment. So I've just got in from work, and yeah, happy to be here talking to you guys, and also really happy to be part of the festival this year.
Oh, thank you so much. Patrick, tell us a little bit about your film, The Ill Fares the Land.
Yeah, so Ill Fares the Land is it's a fantasy drama about a young boy who finds a mermaid washed up on the shores of his seaside home, while his older brother is swept up in the rising tide of far right nationalism. So it's a film that kind of combines fantasy and mythology, obviously using this mermaid, but to comment on sort of social and political issues that are affecting Britain at the moment, but of course, in the States as well. There's also issues regarding right wing radicalization and the migrant crisis. So it's sort of universal in that sense.
That's awesome. It's an important political cinema and it's giving working class artists a voice. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up in a small seaside town in Kent, which is about an hour from London. And the current situation at the moment in the UK is that there's a lot of crossings from migrants fleeing from the Middle East, and they often end up coming to beaches along this coast in the UK. And I grew up in one of those seaside towns, um, and I wanted to do a film that kind of reflected the sort of the working class communities living in those towns. Unfortunately, a lot of people there have been kind of seduced by sort of racism and bigotry. So I wanted to make a film that kind of looked at that with an unflinching eye, that said, look, this is the reality of what's happening in Britain, in certain white working class communities, but at the same time didn't feel patronising or overly judgmental. I wanted it to be honest and ultimately leave room for some kind of redemption for these people, because at the end of the day, that's the only way really that we're going to be able to defeat the far right.
I think it's an interesting film to bring to our community, because our community sort of deals in this. I don't know how to articulate it actually.
Well, I would say that I wouldn't call our community far right, but I would say our community is it's very much Republican, which is more to the right than to the left. But I think it's a great way to see others' perspectives. So I don't want to limit who we show or what we show, and I think it's a good way to see other
Yeah.
perspectives by
And I think
showing stuff.
what Patrick, what I truly thought was important
Yeah,
is
definitely. And
what you
I
said at the
wanted to give a
beginning.
voice as
The
well
fact
to,
is
like
there are
it,
similarities
it's
here
very sort of, I
to what's
suppose,
going on
easy,
in the UK now,
to
as well
condemn sort of
as
certain groups
America.
of people. But with
And
the
I think
film, I
it's
kind of,
important for
as I
any
said, I come from
community
these
to sort of
communities,
see
so
a
I
point
wanted to
of
kind of
view.
give a voice to people
It's a
that live in
learning
these
experience
towns,
for our community.
and get the audience to try to
Go ahead.
understand them,
Sorry.
and at points to empathise with them as well. That's not to say that the film's sort of saying that this is okay, that it's okay to have these views or this kind of politics. But I very much was conscious about making a film that felt real and that wanted to kind of look at the protagonists that are part of these communities, and sort of be non-judgmental, I suppose.
So how did you choose you have like the surrealism and the fantasy with the mermaid in conjecture with the reality of some of the brutality and the things that are happening. How did you decide to use that, and how did you come up with ways to integrate that?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a sort of alchemy to it that and you can't quite sort of work out where the original sort of germ of the idea sort of comes from. I mean, like, I've always been obsessed with mythology, so I always wanted to kind of make a film that touched on mythology and that used kind of sort of fantasy imagery. So, and the mermaid is like, as I said, I grew up by the sea, so a mermaid is such a kind of important mythological figure that I was kind of obsessed with. And then at a certain point, as I said, sort of reflecting on the kind of the political circumstances in this country, I realised that the mermaid is quite a good metaphor for a migrant. So at the moment, you have these boat crossings, and sometimes migrants kind of get washed up on the beach. So I kind of just had this image of a young boy, rather than finding a migrant washed up on the beach, a mermaid, and then using that as a springboard to then explore all of these sort of different themes and characters that I wanted to explore.
Seaside Hometowns has been sort of a centerpiece of your previous films. One in a Million, was it
Yeah.
that you used the seaside town? So it's
Keep on
something
coming
really
back to it.
important to you.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
we
I
would
mean,
like to all visit our. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, no. As I said, I grew up, by the sea, and obviously now I live in the big city. And yeah, I don't know why it keeps on. I just keep on getting drawn back to it. I mean, there's like a beauty to the sea, like there's a rhythm to it that just it really works well on film. And yeah, and it's interesting how sort of in One in a Million the kind of the sea was used quite differently to how the sea is in Ill Fares the Land. In Ill Fares the Land, it's a kind of it's about a horizon and sort of trying to question who are these people coming from the sea. Whereas in One in a Million, it's sort of bleaker. It's kind of got a more kind of darker kind of aspect. It kind of feels scarier. So yeah, it's interesting how I've tried to use the sea sort of in both films to sort of provide different things, I suppose.
So you come from you've been at the London Film School. You've also come from a news background. What's next for you?
Yeah, I don't really know, to be honest. I mean, I'd love to, like all filmmakers. I'm sure.
Sorry about the question.
No, no, no. I know. I'd love to make a feature film one day. Like a lot of short filmmakers. But to be honest, at the moment, we finished Ill Fares the Lands in 2023. So at the moment, I'm quite intent on just sort of taking that film to as many festivals as possible, watching it with an audience, and then after that, we'll see. I mean, you've always got little projects, sort of, that you've got kind of bubbling away. But for the moment, I'm still sort of married to Ill Fares the Lands. But by the end of the year, I'll be looking to move on, I suppose.
I didn't look. Are you coming to this festival? I know it's probably pretty expensive to jump over the pond and attend.
Unfortunately, not. I'd love to. I'd love to come, but it's also work commitments as well. I work in television, in TV news, in the UK, and yeah, so it's hard getting the time off work when you work in news.
With working with with TV news, does that help inspire you with the politicalness of many of your films?
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, I mean, it's like I've got a real interest in, as from this interview, I'm sure you can see, like sort of politics and current affairs. So I'm quite sort of tapped into that world. Like I'm really interested in it, and obviously being, you know, in news, you get a flavour of that, and yeah, it does inspire you. And it's also a good way to like just find new stories as well. And that's what I like about working in the industry that I work in. You meet all kinds of people, and yeah, there's no shortage of stories, to eventually turn into films.
Well, Patrick, thank you so much for being with us. Your film, Ill Fares the Land, will be in the Dramatic Shorts Think block, and it will be shown 2 times during the festival, and you can find that information at vbfilmfest.org. Our schedule is up online now, and we look forward to sharing your film with our audience.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Thank you.
I realized when you were talking about a Think series, you should explain the difference between the two dramatic short series.
So I have 2 different blocks of dramatic shorts, and they're all dramatic shorts. They're all part of the dramatic shorts category. However, I chose the ones that were more emotional, and I called that section emotive. And then the ones that make you think, like this film, Ill Fares the Land, are in my section called Think.
I think that's important because when people, again, we have the film schedule and the grid up, and we also have the different genres. You can pick the
Um,
comedy genre. You could pick the dramatic shorts genre. I can't talk today.
I know.
Right. I think we've been recording a long time.
We have. We
Right.
have the
Um,
documentary shorts.
right. It's just,
We have Vero Visions, which will be a combination of
right.
both a little bit documentary and some dramatic shorts as well. And that's
Mm,
all local filmmakers.
mm,
And then we will also have the student shorts, which I love them.
yeah.
I love the students. I love the student shorts. I love them
Yeah.
all, actually, but I have a little special place in my heart
Well,
for them.
remember they were picked out of 450 films.
Yes, it's true. It's
So
true. So we have great films.
we do have great film. And I promised you I'd push you all on buying passes. So we have the Pick Four pass, we have the Cinema Pass. Pick Four, like the name suggests, you can pick any 4 films or lectures or panel discussions. The Cinema Pass lets you into every film, every panel discussion. And then, if you want to enjoy some of our dinners and galas and dances and uh, wrap up parties, you can buy the Premiere Pass and devote yourself to the Vero Beach Film Festival for the weekend.
vbfilmfest.org is where you can find all that information. And thank you for joining us.
All right, we're going to wrap it up now. Thanks so much. Take care.